Line. Hey, I have the green light. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming today. Can you hear me well enough in the back? I get a thumbs up? Thank you. Awesome. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for UpLift's 6th community conversation, creating stability and opportunity in Iowa's workforce. We're excited to co-host this important event with our partners at Project Iowa today. And before we dive in, just a few quick notes to help you get the most out of today's conversation. We're providing live captioning, or I should say Tracy is providing live captioning for us today. So you'll see there's a QR code on your table. Scan that to follow along. To our online audience, you can turn on your captions at the bottom of your screen. Also, you may notice a few folks taking photos. We have Craig from Signature Productions today who is filming today's event. We're really capturing these moments just to help tell the story of the series, so just be aware of that today. And for those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Ashley Ezio. I'm one of the project coordinators for UpLift, the Central Iowa Basic Income Pilot. Together with my partner, Michael Berger, we make up the project coordination team for the project. If this is your first time engaging with us, welcome. We're glad you're here. I see a lot of familiar faces, so if you've been here with us, thanks for walking alongside of us all this time. In case you don't know, UpLift is a local research study. We're examining the impacts of a basic income. It's designed to generate Iowa-specific data to help inform cost-effective policies that address economic instability across our communities. The project came to life thanks to some generous and diverse group of funders that represent public, private, and corporate. They joined forces to really investigate a different strategy for supporting low-income working families, and with the research from our partners at the University of Pennsylvania Center for Guaranteed Income Research and Des Moines University, we officially launched recruitment for this project in February of 2023. With the support of over 50 community-based organizations, we had 6,000 Central Iowans apply to be a part of the UpLift study. So from that group, 110 participants were selected to receive a $500 monthly stipend for 24 months. An additional 140 individuals agreed to share their experiences as part of the study's control group. To be eligible, applicants needed to live in Polk, Dallas, or Warren counties, have at least one dependent up to the age of 25, and earn less than 60% of the area median income. At the time of the study, that was around $59,000 for a family of 4. We were also intentional about making sure our participants reflected the diversity of our Tri-County area. So 65% come from a metropolitan area, 25% come from a micropolitan community, and 10% from a rural area. Thus, this mirrors the geographic demographics of our community. Data collection continues throughout the year, and we're going to share our research findings in the summer of 2026. So be sure you're subscribed so that we can get that information out to you. We will be inviting community to engage in meaningful conversations about what we've learned. So while the research is foundational and so important, we know that data alone isn't enough. This is why we've created the Community Conversation Series to really complement the research. So we're taking voices, wisdom, and lived experience of our community and combining that with our data. Over the past 2 years, we've consistently asked the question, what are the biggest barriers to economic mobility in Central Iowa? Again and again, we've heard the same themes: food insecurity, housing, crisis support, and employment. Today's panel is all about the last one, workforce opportunity. We're taking a close look at what it takes not just to get a job, but to find meaningful employment. Roles that offer stability, pathways for advancement, skills training, and protection from the uncertainty of involuntary unemployment. We'll explore the challenges that Central Iowans are facing, and we'll hear from our experts and community leaders that are innovating and leading the way in solutions. So joining us today, we have Julie Figenshoe, the Executive Director from Project Iowa, Gabby Cox, Director of Programs at Project Iowa, Aaron Davidson-Rippey, Senior Community Impact Officer at United Way of Central Iowa, Tyler Hansen, Business Engagement Manager at Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services. That's a mouthful, sorry. Randy Ranasovich, Immersion Coordinator at St. Vincent de Paul in Des Moines. So today, each panelist is going to spend about 10 minutes discussing what they do, the solutions that they have found. And if you have questions for our presenters, we want you to use that text function. So on your tables or online, let me get you the number. It is 515-612-8540. You can text that. If you're online, you can also use the Q&A feature. We'll make sure those questions get to our panelists, but we're going to save those till the end of our panel today. So to kick us off, I am excited to introduce you to UpLift's co-sponsors for today, Julie Figgenshoe and Gabby Cox. Julie serves as the Executive Director of Project Iowa, a role she's held since March of 2011. Under her leadership, the organization has grown into a recognized leader in workforce development, providing innovative programming and support to individuals to overcome systemic barriers to employment. Julie brings decades of experience to the community-driven initiatives, workforce systems, and education. Prior to Project Iowa, she served as the Executive Director for the Annie E. Casey Foundation Making Connections Grant Initiative, focused on improving outcomes for children and families through place-based strategies. She also worked in Des Moines Public Schools Head Start program, engaging both parents and children in early learning success. She's a founding member of the Urbandale Food Pantry, and Julie's been instrumental in launching several nonprofits and has numerous community committees. She holds a Master's of Social Work from the University of Iowa and is a licensed social worker in the state. She earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education and psychology from St. Mary's University in Winona, Minnesota. Welcome, Julie. Okay. And Julie and Gabby, we're lucky. We have a team today. I'm going to introduce Gabby. Gabby is a dedicated social worker with 7 years of experience at Project Iowa, where she passionately advocates for marginalized communities. Her expertise lies in providing crucial support and resources to individuals facing socioeconomic challenges. Gabby's commitment to social justice and empowerment drives her hard work through ensuring every participant receives compassionate care and practical solutions. Her proficiency in community outreach and program development has significantly impacted the lives of many. Gabby Cox continues to embody resilience and empathy in her pursuit of creating positive change. Thanks for being here today, guys.
Okay, I really don't need the mic, but I'm going to use it so everyone can hear me in the back. Yeah, and you're going to click. So that's our teamwork we just started. I want to thank UpLift for having us here today. And somebody asked how this happened, and how it happened is I went to one of the community conversations they had, one of the first ones where it was the storytelling event. And what I noticed is that workforce impacted every single person sitting up on that stage, that the $500 allowed them to pursue careers that they really wanted and to do some things that they weren't able to do prior to being a part of UpLift. And so at that moment, I reached out to Ashley and to Michael and said, okay, we got to do something. This is an intersection in which we can really impact community and talk about how important and valuable workforce is in our community. So that was, I think, a couple years ago. So we've been planning this for a while. I want to talk a little bit about, we've been here since 2011, as noted, and I've been in this role since the beginning, and a lot has changed. And we're going to talk about a lot has changed during this conversation. In 2011, we wanted livable wage jobs with meaningful work, same thing we want today. Back then, we were really excited if we could get someone a job at $15 an hour. And that's what we determined was a livable wage at that point in time, or that's what was in the community. Sorry to report that the average wage has not went up that much. We're lucky if we can get people into $19 to $20 an hour jobs. But what that really said to us is that defining livable wage, we have lots of partners in the community that have done research to what that is. But at Project Iowa, what we know, livable wage is unique to each person, depending on their circumstance and where they are. So really, we're still in the realms of doing meaningful careers that align with your purpose and value, that you can be on that pathway, and that livable wage, we want you to be able to take care of your families, and how everyone does that looks a little bit different. And one of the things that's made us be here for that long, as well as how fluid and flexible we can be. So in the beginning, we were very targeted to careers. We were targeted to welding, and we were targeted to CNA nursing. As those careers became fulfilled and we couldn't get people jobs, we didn't want to train people for something they couldn't attain a career for. So we moved away from that, and we became a little bit more flexible to our model, and let people choose where they wanted to go, right? And where they want to be. We know now in the workforce, they need to have something exceptional to get through the door, because we know that it's a tight market out there. So we really help bring that personal value, that confidence, that that knowing that they have something to give to an employer. But it's taken us to be fluid and flexible because the environment has changed so much. So in that flexibility, also, we have done a lot of different programming. So the other thing we know is that each individual brings with them gifts and talents that are different. And one of the lessons that we've learned, we started out at 13 weeks that you would go through our training, and it was both personal and professional training. And Gabby will get into a little bit more about what that looks like for us. And it was 13 weeks. Well, after COVID, we found out time is valuable. And time is a privilege. To have 13 weeks to come go through our program is a privileged way to, you have to have someone that watches your kids. You have to have someone that supports you. I mean, it was a lot. So we have really created some programming in which people can come to us with their various needs. We know the cohort model works, which is people all coming together and supporting one another through it. But we've developed some other ways to support workers because we see what the needs are out there in the community, and then we move to recognize those. YouthWorks is our new one. So we not only work with adults seeking careers, and we also know careers are a journey, not a destination. So we have many people that come to us that are shifting, that have been laid off at different places. We help them find their transferable skills. Maybe you were a teacher and now you want to be a firefighter. I mean, people think we no longer go to college, get one career and stay in that career, or go to high school and get a career, stay in that. We see it as a journey. So really creating some of these programs in which people can come and fit into what their needs are and what best meets their needs. And I think the livable wage one, we talked a little bit about this already. So our outlook on livable wage is still the same. We have lots of people, we know housing, everything that Ashley talked about, we hear in our programming that housing is an issue, childcare is an issue, transportation is an issue. All of these things come into play. And our main goal is to help people understand and seek out the kind of employment that will best meet their family's needs at that time. I wish that I could say Project Iowa gets everybody $25 an hour jobs. That's not the case. And I want to say, and I think we'll hear a theme go through here. Iowa, Polk County, specifically where we do work throughout the state of Iowa. There aren't enough of those jobs available in our community for everyone to have a good job with a livable wage. So that's something we need to recognize and continue to work on. And Gabby will talk a little bit about how our programs do that.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Julie. So some of the materials that you have in front of you will also detail a little bit of what we talk about. And so looking at unemployment at Project Iowa in our Cultivating Careers program, about 60% of job seekers that work with us in that program identify as unemployed when they decide to get services. And so we are learning just a lot more about why, or the different reasons for why they're on unemployment. And so again, we're tag teaming this, but, you know, sometimes we see, reasons for being laid off, even some, whether it's health, situations that, you know, leave people out of work or, needs that their family has. Um, you know, sometimes even, being out of the workforce for a long period of time or, things like that have contributed to that. Did you want to add anything else?
Well, and under, I think the unemployment, the indicator that we're talking about, we just want to make it really clear. Everybody is always saying unemployment. This is the unemployment rate in Iowa. This is the unemployment rate in Iowa. What we want you to know is there's a lot of people that aren't counted. It's a survey that goes out. So I think we're greatly underreporting. A lot of individuals that we have run into and come across have disengaged from the workforce and the workforce system that is in place. We now are only at 16 weeks unemployment, where before it was longer. So after that runs out, a lot of people just, you're not counted. You're not there anymore, right? So you're underground looking for work. And so I really think with all the layoffs that we've had in recent months, and the meatpacking plants, the commissary, Wells Fargo, I mean, there's been a lot that there is a much higher unemployment rate that's reported. I think we miss a lot of people by doing surveys versus who's really out there seeking work.
So then underemployment, at Project Iowa, about 40% of people who come to us, are underemployed. So working multiple jobs, you know, not having enough, in their paycheck or, not having like a robust benefits package wherever they work. And so we see that a lot. And I think, that is especially devastating for people who are in that cycle of working really hard and not being able to afford just basic things they need for themselves and their families.
And the other type of unemployment I just want to bring up is we also see a lot of companies going to contract work, which then people don't have benefits or cash payments. We just had a discussion with most of us on the panel. This is a really scary time for a lot of people seeking work because there are a lot of people that are really taking advantage of these people out there right now. And we were talking, it's even on Indeed, other ways that there's scams and they're getting money and stuff. And when people are desperate, people will do desperate things. So, you know, underemployment is a lot of different things. It's cash, it's contract work, it's, you know, and so what we really need to do is just be aware that people are working and they're doing the best they can to survive and they're still not making ends meet. So, and then the gig economy I wanted to talk about too, that many people are doing DoorDash or different kinds of things to pick up cash when needed. And so, like Gabby said, it's not unusual for us to have people in our program working 2 to 3 jobs, and they're there just to see if they can find one that will meet all those needs.
So on the screen, it'll talk a little bit more about underemployment, like that we just described about, you know, working multiple jobs to make enough money to, again, meet their needs. Another piece that we see a lot, and especially from COVID, is where people are in jobs that perhaps don't really match their skills, or they're in a space where they want to transition and don't really know how. And so sometimes even just their educational background can even be a hindrance to that ability to switch. They may have a ton of experience and a lot of transferable skills. However, hiring practices don't allow a lot of upward mobility in different jobs. And so it's kind of keeping them in this level of work that, again, they're not, you know, making enough money. We also see, you know, sometimes with immigrants and refugees from other countries who come here that are went through a lot of education, have tons of work experience in their home country. However, those all of that experience does not really apply here. And so, they're willing to work and they want to work. However, again, finding a job that they can meet their needs. And so in our Cultivating Careers program, we do a lot of work, especially with that invisible underemployment of helping people understand how they can make those transitions. Even people who have been out of the workforce for whatever reason, caretaking, incarceration, health situations. People lose a lot of confidence, and it doesn't look super friendly when you're online trying to find a job or you're not getting calls back from employers. So we do a lot of work to help them understand, what skills to highlight and how to move forward. So yeah, getting into our programming, Cultivating Careers, again, it's in a cohort model. So you're with other job seekers who are experiencing a lot of the same feelings. Nowadays, job search is pretty isolated. You do it online and you do it yourself. And so we have a lot of tools and technology to help people feel equipped, like they can do it on their own. And they have a career coach who works one-on-one with them to just help with some of those specific needs that each person has individual circumstances. And so the one-on-one help, I think, is really valuable that we offer. And as trends evolve, everything's online using different software. We teach people how to do that and give them the access. If you don't have access to technology, internet, knowing how to navigate that, it's so daunting and people just shut down. And so we create a space without judgment where people can learn, get help. And it's really cool to see people's face light up when they realize like they know how to do it and they are getting called back, they're getting the job. So Cultivating Careers creates that space for them. You want to add anything?
Right now on, on average, we're seeing that it takes between 3 and 6 months to get a job. So it's not like they come to our class and there's a job waiting at the end. At some economies, we did have a multitude of jobs available for people. But what we're seeing is that it's taking time. It's not a quick solution. And a job isn't a solution. It's in conjunction with all of the other things you're going to hear about community and how we have to collaborate. A job is a piece of the puzzle to put people to the success. But it is taking on average 3 to 6 months to find that employment. So that in that time, Project Iowa continues to offer individuals a space to come and to continue to look for jobs, because all of us sitting here are probably employed, and to hear no consistently over a 3-month period is devastating to anyone. You start questioning yourself and you start thinking if you have any skills or talents that you can even utilize. Am I worthy? Am I worth anything? And so we really have built our culture. So what makes us a different type of solution is it's about personal and professional. And so we continue to say that once Project Iowa, always Project Iowa, because we know that the job search is lonely. We know the job search is depressing. We know that your ego, your self-confidence can be knocked down again and again. And we at Project Iowa know that every human has value and everybody should be able to contribute to our community. And so we strive and commit to support individuals till they get to that. So our outcomes are not based on how many people come and take our classes. Our outcomes are based on when we place people where they want to be, right? So we continue to work with you. You come and take the class. We work with you until that job is secured or until you don't want to see us anymore. We hope you keep coming back. But the other thing is we also then have people, and we've built into our culture, into our programming, that so you may get that $19 an hour job. That's fantastic. You're there a year. You come back and you say, I'm ready to make a move. I want to move up. I want to move out. I want to move somewhere else. And we're still there because those are all skills that are changing all the time, right? And the technology that people are using. So we're there to support individuals on their career journey. And we know it's not a one-stop. So we're always there to support and help as people move through.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. Pass it all down.
Here's where we're at.
So last thing I'll say is, we are located at Franklin Avenue in the old Franklin Junior High building. And we also, for Cultivating Careers, can reach people virtually. So across the state and rural areas. So connecting people all over the state is pretty cool to see, and helping people in communities where they really may not have any other connections or access. So that's how you can find us.
Thank you, guys. Will you look at the top of this real quick? Thank you, Julie and Gabby, for that. That's wonderful. I do want to plug, because you gave so much good information in your folders, and our online audience, we will follow up with this. There is a handout that goes through all the definitions of things you talked about, some really great statistics that you're discussing. 71% are relying on at least 2 streams of revenue, really talking about that side business or side hustle. So yeah, just wanted to plug that. Next up, we have Erin. Erin is our Senior Community Impact Officer for United Way of Central Iowa. And there's her face on the screen now. She leads the team responsible for community investments and related strategies under the 5 elements of a thriving community. Those include essential needs, early childhood success, education success, economic opportunity, and health and well-being. She joined United Way of Central Iowa in 2023 and has 25 years of experience in nonprofit and health and human service related fields. Erin's expertise includes organizational leadership, public affairs, and advocacy, spanning across multiple issues, including workforce development, reproductive health, healthcare workforce, out of school time, and older youth and foster care. Erin holds a bachelor's degree in social work from Metropolitan State University and a master's degree in public administration from Drake University. Erin, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ashley. Ooh, our mic is working in the room
Yes.
now. Great. Okay, I'm covered in microphones, but I think it'll work. Thanks so much for having me. So thank you all for taking time to be here today. Obviously we see so much commitment to making progress on the issues that we are talking about. So we're really grateful for this opportunity to share some insights that can really help us guide our collective efforts to build a more stronger, equitable community. So we are here today to talk a little bit about ALICE. So you have, those of you here in the room, there's a 1-pager on ALICE in the back that's got a lot of the information that I'll cover today. But you may be asking, okay, so who is ALICE? Well, ALICE is not an individual person, but rather refers to a community who have to make some tough choices. So ALICE stands for Asset Limited. Oh, my animations aren't working. Okay. Asset Limited. So ALICE families are working, but not earning enough to make ends meet. These folks are also income constrained, folks that have no safety net in a time of crisis, and also employed. So working, but not earning enough to make ends meet. ALICE can be a family member, a friend, a neighbor, or any of us here in this room. ALICE are workers that are the engine that keeps our economy running. So this includes childcare providers, bank tellers, delivery drivers, retail clerks, healthcare workers, and so many more. Why are we talking about ALICE? Well, we used to spend a lot of time referring to measurements like 100% of the federal poverty level or 250% of poverty. We use this ALICE framework because it's really a better measure of poverty in the United States than some of the traditional metrics like the federal poverty level, which really is used primarily to determine government assistance eligibility. Here are some reasons that we use ALICE as a framework. It incorporates local variations. So the federal poverty level applies a national standard that does not account for regional cost differences. ALICE, however, adjusts for geographic variations, recognizing the cost of living can vary quite significantly between urban, suburban, and rural areas. ALICE also focuses on financial stability. So it goes beyond income to consider assets and savings. It identifies households that are living paycheck to paycheck and those unable to handle unexpected expenses, things that are not captured by traditional poverty measures. ALICE also uses more comprehensive data. It combines the quantitative data from multiple sources, including labor market, trends, demographic changes. It provides a little bit more of a holistic view of economic hardship. And finally, ALICE really reflects the real cost of living. Now, as Julie was just saying, it is not an exact science, but this gives us a little bit more of a comprehensive picture. So unlike the federal poverty level, which is based on assumptions that were made about household spending that were developed in the 1960s, ALICE considers the actual cost of living in each community. So let's take a little closer look. The ALICE Essentials Index, which is used to create this framework, only includes the costs of the very basics. So housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and basic technology. Whereas the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI, which many of us hear about, and it is what the federal poverty levels are adjusted to, it includes non-essential items and even luxury items like wine and fine jewelry that many households just simply can't afford. So why does that matter? Well, this chart shows that the National Consumer Price Index, that's in red, and then Iowa's ALICE Index is in blue. So as you can see, the ALICE Essentials Index, so just those basics, has skyrocketed since the pandemic, even more than the increase in CPI. And most importantly, throughout the past 15 years, the ALICE Index, so again, just the essentials, it has risen at a greater rate than the overall cost of goods that the CPI measures. So while the costs are rising for everyone, absolutely, folks who are lower income, ALICE, that population has been hit harder. So just want to get everybody engaged here for a minute. So curious, what do you think, and we'll do this by a raise of hands for folks in the room, how much do you think it costs for a family of 4, so let's assume 2 working adults and 2 children in childcare, how much does it cost to afford the basics in Central Iowa? Raise your hand if you think it's A, about $31,000. Okay, no hands in the room for those online. What about B, little over, under $57,000? Any hands? Okay, got a couple hands. Okay. What about C, $85,000? I see a lot of hands up. And D, almost $150,000. Okay, we've got a hand here. So the answer is C, very astute folks here in the room. It costs $85,000 for a family of 4 with 2 kids in childcare just to survive in Central Iowa. So let's look at what that household survival budget looks like. ALICE creates a fairly realistic budget for what it takes to survive in Central Iowa. And you can see this information online as well. So you can see there are different incomes for different family makeups, those kinds of things. But we're gonna, for the sake of consistency, use our family of 2 with 2 working adults, 2 children in childcare. So it reflects the bare minimum. I just want to keep saying this, the bare minimum to meet basic needs. So breaking down, you look at the housing category. This budget allocates about $1,200 that includes utilities for rent. Now, I don't know if anybody's been in the market for housing right now. That is tough, right? So picture what kind of apartment you're getting for a family of 4 for that amount. So that means making tough choices, right? This could mean between an apartment that is too small, or maybe an older home in need of many repairs, or being in a less safe part of town, scrimping on other parts of your budget. Maybe you're looking at a friend or a neighbor to help with childcare. So this survival budget, it also does not include a cushion for emergencies. So let's say if the single car that's used in this budget, the ALICE survival budget allots for 1 car, regardless of family size. If that car breaks down, it could set a family behind for months or even years. So what does it cost for a family to be financially stable? So when we refer to ALICE, we are typically talking about folks in central Iowa whose income falls below that ALICE survival budget that we just looked at. But for us at United Way, and for so many of us in this room, I'm sure, it isn't just about helping Central Iowans survive, it is setting them up to thrive. So this stability budget represents a more sustainable budget that includes a category for savings that can be used for an emergency, for additional education, or perhaps, thinking about buying a home in a safer neighborhood. So for those of you that are sort of, familiar with the federal poverty level, this stability budget represents about 350% of that federal poverty level, which we all know is just excruciatingly low. So for a family of 4 with 2 children in childcare, they need to make a combined hourly wage of nearly $75 an hour, which is almost $150,000 per year. So how many families do we all know in central Iowa that make less than $50,000 a year? It's pretty common. So here's a comparison of the 2 budgets. The survival budget, again, I just want to say it is just making ends meet. And remember that our ALICE population isn't even making enough to get to this survival budget. So the stability budget, again, is what it takes to be able to absorb the emergency expense, to afford housing in a safer neighborhood, put a little money into savings. And the stability foundation is what Central Iowans need to thrive. And as you can see, if the adults in the family have a job that pays under $20 an hour, and we just heard how hard it is to find a job right now for over $20 an hour, that combined hourly wage of 2 adults working $20 an hour, assuming they're getting full-time 40 hours a week, is still not enough to survive, let alone to thrive. And yet, you heard this firsthand from our friends at Project Iowa. Among the 20 most common jobs here in central Iowa, 40% of those top 20 jobs pay less than $20 an hour. So while the cost of household basics has been increasing, wages have just simply not risen enough to keep up. And even though wages increased 9.8% from 2021 to 2023, over that same 2-year period, the cost of living for that family increased 20% in central Iowa. So what does that mean? Many of the most common jobs in Iowa still have a substantial percentage of workers who are beneath the ALICE threshold or in poverty. So let's talk a little bit about benefits. So we mentioned earlier that the federal poverty level is primarily used to determine eligibility for assistance programs. So what does that look like in our family of 4? So our example, again, we have 2 adults working 2 of those most common jobs, making median wages. So here you can see that while our family is earning well above that 100% of federal poverty level, they are still nearly $27,000 below the ALICE survival budget. At their income, they do not qualify for a housing voucher, they don't qualify for SNAP or WIC. The only thing that they may qualify for is LIHEAP, or energy assistance, and that is a one-time payment to the heating utility. So they are still not making enough to make ends meet, but they don't qualify for benefits. And when you lose that last benefit, you still aren't at the survival budget, let alone the stability budget. So far, we've been talking about our hypothetical family of 4, but what is the overall picture for those in our community? Well, here in central Iowa, Polk Warren and Dallas, there are over 90,000 households that are below the ALICE survival threshold. So if you think about that in terms of like, okay, how do we get our arms around what is $90,000 or 90,000 households mean? So that is roughly the same number of households in Ankeny, Bondurant, Urbandale, Waukee, and West Des Moines combined. So this makes a total of 1 in 3 households in central Iowa unable to afford the basics. We also see this data reflected in many different ways. I want to highlight one here in another survey in central Iowa. So the recent Community Health Needs Assessment found that 35.5% of central Iowa residents would not be able to afford an unexpected $400 expense without going into debt. These are the very real challenges that ALICE individuals and families encounter. So just a few things that I'll highlight for you as we move on to our other presenters today. Again, what we know from the data and from all of the stories and folks that are working with individuals, in central Iowa, wages simply are not keeping up with the rising cost of necessities. And 1 in 3 households in central Iowa are struggling to make ends meet. That's over 90,000 households. And many households are working, but just can't make those ends meet and don't qualify for assistance. So we wanted to just give you that framework as we are having this very important conversation today. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Thank you so much, Erin. And if I just wanted to plug, this is hot off the press data, right? Like brand new, you're seeing it for the first time. So make sure you stop by the table over there and grab it. A lot of key notes that Erin hit are right here on this handout. Awesome. If you have questions for Erin specifically about the ALICE data that was presented, go ahead and text that line 515-612-8540. Our folks online, you can use the Q&A feature, but we will make sure those questions get to our panelists. Next up is Tyler. Tyler Hansen is a graduate from Grandview University, where he focused on psychology and sociology. His experience begins with his career at Easter Seals, Iowa, as a job developer and vocational team leader, overseeing supported education, day habilitation, supported employment, pre-vocational, and project search. Tyler worked for the University of Iowa Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities under the Money Follows the Person grant, working with people with brain injuries, intellectual disabilities, transitioning from a facility setting to rejoining the workforce. Tyler's currently the Business Engagement Resource Manager at Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, where he supports businesses that seek to hire and retain individuals with disabilities by providing them with a variety of resources, training, technical assistance, and consultation. We're really grateful to have you here today, Tyler.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you guys hear me all right? All right. I didn't want to yell into it, so I don't think you guys want to hear me that loud anyway. So we will get going. Has anybody here heard of Voc Rehab? Raise your hands. Oh man, I've got my work cut out for me, don't I? All right, so I just wanted to put on the screen there our mission and vision. So, our mission is to provide expert individualized services focused to Iowans with disabilities to have independence through successful employment and economic success support. So ultimately, we are looking to support individuals with disabilities to get back into the workforce, whether it's they're already in the workforce, lost a job, they're newly into the workforce. It's the whole support and whole wraparound services. So who is Voc Rehab? I just wanted to give you guys a kind of overarching view. Currently, we are under the Department of Education federally. I say as of today, as things are currently shifting and moving around. So that may look a little bit differently. We are funded 76% from the federal level and then 21.3% from the state. So that would be a drawdown in the sense of how we are funded. So if you hear us talking about appropriations and drawdown, that may be what is coming up. We are here to serve all Iowans at colleges, high schools, and more. So we do have counselors in every single high school. So if you say, do you have a person in Ankeny? Absolutely, we have somebody in Ankeny. If you have somebody in Sioux City, we do. So we connect with all individuals that are in the schools. So they may have a disability or an IEP. So we're trying to get involved with them to support with education, to upskill and get into the workplace. So we also provide the dual customer approach, which I'll kind of talk a little bit more about, and that is primarily my role. So for VR, we have 2 customers. The first one is our job candidates. our goal is to help prepare them to obtain, maintain, and advance in employment. So currently in the last fiscal year, we served 23,216 individuals. That is a good chunk of them were in the school district, so it's about 13 or 14,000, and then the additional 9 to 10,000 come from adults that are looking for services, which this is pulled from our SRC report, and that would be something that I can share with UpLift Iowa as well to go take a look at. But our goal ultimately is to make sure that they get the opportunities to get into the workplace. So what I do is we bridge the gap to employers. So when we say dual customer, our second customer is the employer. So we're really learning their needs. So we have to provide technical assistance around disability. So if some employer calls and says, hey, we don't know how to support a person in this role, they may be looking at losing their employment. That's where our team comes in. Or if they want to talk about the ADA, we're making sure to give them the information on supporting that individual or their workspace, making sure that they have the resources from our assistive technology team members, also going in and just talking about being inclusive in the workspace. Neurodiversity is really a big hot topic right now within the workspaces. And so giving them the accommodations, how to implement, how to support, and how to sustain employment for that person is really vital for us and for the employer. Retention is key. And if we can help retain an employee, that cost for the employer comes back and then supports them for hopefully furthering that individual's career as well. The individual then can feel supported. When we talk about support and workplace belonging, that's where a lot of our individuals thrive once they get that sense of belonging and inclusion. So I'm going to just share some stats from our NTIDE report that had come out just recently. So on the left, you'll see individuals with disabilities and their engagement in the workplace. So that is 41%. And compared to 77.9% for individuals without disabilities. That's quite the difference of engagement within the workspaces. So we're trying to bridge that gap and make it more accurate as far as the population. And you see there 28.7% of people in the United States have disabilities as well. So when we talk 1 in 4, are the employers also seeing that within their workspaces? When we talk to them, they may be more of 6, 7, 8% of individuals that are disclosing disability or saying I have a disability. That can range from anxiety, depression, diabetes, cerebral palsy, you know, there's disabilities, and how do we make sure that people feel welcome to do that, to make sure that they're getting the supports in their workspaces. So those numbers are showing that we need to get the individuals with disabilities into the workspaces, and that's what we're really after right now. I want to put there on there the accommodation costs averages in the median $300, and this is straight from Jan. Is anybody familiar with Jan Travel Accommodation Network? So checking that out, there are some great resources to talk about, but that cost is $300. What they saw in there was that once they put the accommodations in place, they saw retaining valued employees, improving productivity and morale, and then reduced workers' compensation and training costs. When we talk about costs for employers, that just helps with the individual just being able to get more experience. So when they talk upskilling or giving somebody certifications, these are things that can be really impactful for the person's career. I want to talk a little bit more about our subject matter experts in not only vocational rehabilitation, but our workforce development, because we do have some great resources within workforce development as we are under that bridge in Iowa, or department in Iowa. So our vocational rehabilitation counselors are working with those individuals that are seeking employment. So maybe they're starting with the end in mind. Oh, you want to become a lawyer? What currently do you have to become a lawyer? What do we need to gain? Do we need to go to school? Do we need to gain some experience? Really being more proactive with getting them into that type of work. So connecting them to employers as well to learn more about the opportunities. Begin with the end in mind. Hopefully we'll be able to be really successful down the road. Benefits planner. So when we talk individuals with disabilities, that number of 40%, we may be seeing people not engaging due to the fact of fear of losing benefits. Our benefits planners are there to support you with having conversations about how work could impact your benefits and how to work through that. I call them the number wizards because it's a whole thing to go through SSI and SSDI and what that does to your benefits when working. So bringing those people to the table to really have good conversations of how this can help you with your financial impact in your life. We want people to have not live in poverty as well. So that could be opportunities for people to say, I can work 40 hours a week at $20 an hour and maintain certain benefits. That's something that we want them to have conversations with. So bringing in our benefits planners. Our assistive technology consultants, we have team members that can go into businesses and just say, these are some really high-tech options, from screen readers to speech devices, all the way down to, I had an individual that just recently had a stroke, so we had to redo how they put their gloves on at work. Simple change of, instead of doing the rubber gloves that snap on, they can just stick their hand straight into the gloves that are already open. It allows a person now to do their job without having to have the fear of, I can't do my daily task, or asking my coworker to put my gloves on. That gives them some autonomy within their workspace, which gives them impact and just helps their mental health as well when going to work, not having that fear of, am I able to complete that task that I now have that barrier. So bringing those team members in to be really thoughtful and impactful. ADA coordinators going into the workspaces and saying, is this accessible for individuals with disabilities? Not just individuals with disabilities, but all individuals that come to your workspace, coming from your customers. So maybe a mother with a stroller using the ramp to get into the workspace, using the handicap accessible doorway, using the door knobs versus door handles. There are various different things that Senator Harkin had worked on with the ADA that really can help all individuals in the workspace. So having those great conversations just to give people autonomy again in the workspace. Also, as we age, we may need some more support as well. So those are things that help all individuals again. We also have amazing business consultants. I think I see one in the back room over there. Drew, if you don't mind raising your hand. He is amazing. He's out of the Des Moines office, but the business engagement consultants are there to support your needs and really learn, what do you need as a business, whether it's registered apprenticeships, or you want to connect with the workforce or English as secondary language team, reentry, whatever you're after, they're there to be that support. So those folks in the American Job Centers are the bread and butter to connecting you to your local workforce. And that's where our Voc Rehab team is really happy to be engaging with that division and collaborating to help get people opportunities. So thanks, Drew, for appeasing me over there. So I'm going to go over just a little bit of impacting what we're doing to impact change. So we're really bridging that gap for job seekers to businesses. We are also looking nationally. So we're working with our partners at the National Employment Team. They may be hiring Iowans that are seeking to go into the film industry. We're working with Lights, Camera, Access. So maybe they're not looking to be at Lionsgate and work out of Iowa, so they're trying to move out into California. What employers are currently hiring Iowans, or Iowans are interested in specific industries and roles that we need to connect with? So we're being really impactful there. Or what companies are we struggling to work with in Iowa to hire individuals with disabilities that we could collaborate and connect with? So we're using that national employment team to make more meaningful connections for individuals that we're working with. We're working with our students and helping develop work-based learning opportunities so they can know what they want to get into as they get older and move into the workspace. And then also utilizing the workforce development resources, as we talked about a little bit briefly. And I'm going to get pretty quick here because I know I'm running short on time. The last thing of the various initiatives, Core 4, we were really trying to look at how do we do a quick turnaround for individuals so they're not sitting on caseloads or waiting for really services to go. So Core 4 is really bringing our VR team, our Title III team, and also our business engagement team to make really quick, meaningful turnarounds for our individuals that we're working with. Also implementing more switchy. So there's some projects there that are going on. IPS, which is individual placement supports, really focusing on the 3 layers of the mental health into the workplace and how it can really make a great impact for them. Who's eligible for VR? This slide deck will go out, but if you are receiving benefits or have a physical or mental impairment that presents a substantial barrier to employment, you could be qualified for VR, in which those are mobility, self-care, self-direction, work skills, work tolerance, interpersonal skills, and communication, which then leads to a few different categories that we go into, and leading into our process to intake, to eligibility, to creating a plan with your counselor, and then goal to get employment. That's our counties that we cover. So if you look, checking out our map, if you are out of central Iowa, there are various opportunities to connect with us. And I will move forward so we can get going on to the next part of the panel. But thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Thank you so much. We actually have an UpLift participant who's used VR services. And so she actually just graduated with her degree from the Accelerated Business course at Drake University. So really proud of her. If you have questions for Tyler, please submit your questions using the text app. I know a lot of folks are doing it, but it's up on the screen again. Thank you for doing that. And I will go ahead and introduce our last panelist for today. Randy Renasovich is a Des Moines native who's dedicated her career to the criminal justice system. Her 35 years at Polk County's attorney's office allowed her to see firsthand the impact that criminal activity and incarceration has not only had on the individual, but their families and the community as a whole. After her retirement from Polk County, Randy transitioned to the reentry coordinator at St. Vincent de Paul. She works with offenders, their families, and key community stakeholders to identify and mitigate barriers to success pre and post-release. Randy's mission is to end generational poverty by transforming the family unit into one of self-sufficiency, lifelong education, and positive outcomes. Thanks, Randy.
Sure. All right, everybody hear me okay? Too loud? I can take this off. Okay, so I will breeze through this. I want to say Vincent de Paul, everybody probably knows, is a thrift store, right? Well, take that to the next thing of how about a first step to a second chance? And use that for all things. Everybody's talked about unemployment, underemployment. Let's talk about people getting out of prison. Let's talk about reentry. We have 2 programs that we work with. One is immersion, and it co-facilitates with our back to work program. When Julie said that organizations and agencies work together, she is 100%. We have worked with all of these folks in the last 8 years, and I will say that we do complement each other's work. We are one team. It takes a tribe. It takes a village to get people employment, livable wages. Our 2 programs were developed in 2018. They are nationally recognized across the United States, and I think 14 total country or states. When we put it together, the main thing, one of the things that was really key for us is to get this self-sufficiency assessment process going. It's an evidence-based self-sufficiency survey. And what it does is it gives us the opportunity to reflect on what people need, where they're at, where they need that boost of confidence. And maybe if we can't do it, then we can refer to one of our partners to get that done. We were recently awarded, and we haven't been cut yet, a federal grant for second chances. The data that we collect on that life skills survey that we talked about, the self-sufficiency assessment, is also analyzed by the University of Iowa. So we are able to show within our programs that we are, our recidivism rate is a smidge lower than the state rate. And we're really proud of that, but we can always do better, right? What we do is we support positive, healthy relationships all over building one-on-one relationships for successful reentry and employment, because you can't have successful reentry without employment, right? We do use that license life skills progressive survey and a case management approach. A case management approach is developed between our participants and our community navigators to see what works best. We don't want to interfere with their lives. We don't want to make them feel obligated to come and see us. If we can connect and reach a plan to talk over the phone, send emails, do Zooms, FaceTime, all that stuff, that is what we're going to do. The goals, obviously, to not go back to prison, end that generational incarceration, and let's get folks some jobs. Let's get them what they need. Let's spiff up that resume. Let's make it look good. Get them in a livable wage. Everybody's talked about wages, 100%, $20 an hour. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't. They are out there. They are available. And I'll tell you, if you hear of them and you find them, let us know. Because we will get that employer as many employees as they need. We do have 8 components to both of our programs. They're listed here, again, following Tyler's lead. I won't go through them. They're on the PowerPoint that you'll receive or you have received, as well as up on the screen. We do really focus on education, not so much the high set or secondary education, but just let's get people some street education. Let's teach them how to go to the grocery store, how to pay their bills, how to do things that they haven't had to do because people have always told them, get up, go eat, go to bed, turn your lights out. Let's make this happen. We also like to do a lot of advocacy. We are our program participants' biggest cheerleaders. We'll put as much into them as they put into themselves, and sometimes more. We do provide some coaching. Let's have a talk. We have mentors that work with folks. Once the person knows what they want to focus on, and they need a mentor for. You talk to people before they get out of prison and, oh, I want a mentor. This is my key. This is going to make it work. And then they get out and they're like, well, I don't know what to talk to them about. It's like, well, figure that out. And we're going to get you with the right person. We've got a gentleman who is working with one of our mentors now. They meet for an hour and a half at the library, and they're putting together spreadsheets and budgets and all that because he has realized that his downfall to recidivism and relapse is money. He gets the money, he thinks he's cool, and then he goes off and does silly things, and then he goes off and does even more silly things, and then he relapses because he's done so many silly things. So we really want to focus on that person and individualized services. Employment is key. With our Back to Work program, and it's a 6-day in classroom from 9 to 3, and everybody learns the skills you need. Again, spiff up the resume. If you have a job, plan. Don't be late. If you're on the bus, allocate for a time that a train might go by. Don't pop into Quick Trip and get you a roller dog and a Mountain Dew when the bus might be coming. Plan accordingly. Let's be an adult. Let's grow up. Let's get you to the job you need that you can succeed in. We do work with employers. All of us here coordinate. We connect. It's like, hey, we've got a person that has these skills. Do you know of anything? We've got this. Oh, this company's hiring. We share that information. We don't keep it to ourselves. We try to share because the importance is to get the community back to work in a livable wage so they don't have to come into our pantries, so they don't have to be embarrassed when they come in. We do have a holistic approach to having them set their career goals. Let's do SMART goals. Let's not say, oh, I want to be, a CEO when I'm, just out of prison and I did a great job in the kitchen, but I need to walk before I run. So we need to keep that reality check in play. With the community services, with the community partners we have, we obviously can increase the number of services available to everyone. not just the people who are affected by on or underemployment. Maybe they have family members. You know, Project Iowa may have people come in that they need food or clothing. Or they're, you know, maybe one of their kiddos has a school program and grandma needs something. Let's get them into us. Keep the person with as much self-dignity as you possibly can to make the family whole again after an unemployment, after different things, different incarcerations, maybe a medical emergency, maybe just a financial emergency. You know, this says not many people can afford a $400 emergency. I know there were many years that I couldn't have, you know, so we all need to reflect back at where we were, where we came from. Again, walk before you run and get everybody back on track. We do have a 72-hour transitional services, and this is basically for those who are just releasing from incarceration. You know, you can, you know, just like many other programs or services or, you know, addiction programs, you can transition a 72-hour program. Maybe I just lost my job and I'm in a panic. This is the most critical time for me. 72 hours is key. Let's reduce the barriers. Let's get that anxiety down. Let's see what we can do. You know, let's get them over to a pantry. Let's get them to Project Iowa because maybe their program's starting before one of ours is. You know, send them home with a ham and some bread and some macaroni and cheese so they can provide dinner because they might not know when they'll be able to do that again. Let's help them. Let's reuse what we know. Again, the first step to a second chance. Advocacy is key. All of us are like-minded. We don't like barriers. We don't like blocks. You know, please don't tell us no. Please don't tell us that you can't help someone without giving us an alternative. You know, it's like going to your supervisor. I have a problem. Give me a solution. I can see all the problems, but where I need help is, where's the solution? Let's advocate for these folks and let's make it happen. Let's make them their own advocate. Let's make them able to speak to somebody or go in with, you know, their adult pants on and have a job interview. Ongoing support. You are in our program forever. You may be not in our program on paper or in a database, but we never say no. People get out, people come in, people have great jobs. All of a sudden they fall on hard times. They can always come back. The door is always open. All they need to do is come back to us. If we can help them, we're going to get a hold of some of you that can help them. Again, education. Vincentians, just so you guys know, is like it's a big word. So St. Vincent de Paul, if you are involved as a volunteer through your parish St. Vincent de Paul conference, you're considered a Vincentian. It's a very big word. That's why, like with me, you'll hear me call St. Vincent de Paul Vinnies. It's easier, right? Let's just keep it simple. Housing, just like everybody else, we have no money. We do have a list that we've garnered from other people. We all share it. We highlight the ones that we wouldn't want people to live in, and then we pass it on. I said we lost our funding after COVID. But the first thing we always tell people up front, full transparency, we have no money and we have no housing. We have toys. We have food, we have clothes, we have hygiene, because this is what you're going to need. This is what you're going to take home to your family. We really want to help people get housing. And, you know, if they have a landlord that they're struggling with, you know, we've got no problem chatting with the landlord. Oh, you know, we know they're going to get a job, or if they need a job, but they need an ID, we'll have communication with that employer or their worker at another agency and say, hey, they've got their ID coming. Here's the email. Here's the email from their birth certificate. Please give them the job. So we really try to keep all of that in play. This is just like a boring slide of how to get a hold of us. But we are here for everyone. The reason that we started this back to work and reentry program is because, our original store on 6th Avenue, which just celebrated 100 years last year, is the epicenter of poverty. When our current CEO came in 10 years ago, he realized that 28% of the people in the community that we were serving at that time had been affected by incarceration of some way. So that is how the Back to Work and the immersion program got kind of full circle, so to speak. So thank you for your time. Thank you for attending. Thanks to all of our great partners.
All right, thank you, Randy. I'll be okay if you guys want to keep that. You guys can pass that along so people can hear you during the panel. Thank you, Randy, for wrapping up that conversation. Once again, for people that are online in person, we do have that line open still, so you can text 515-612-8540 to get your questions in. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I think I got it now. You good? Okay, we good?
The flashing green. Hold it down.
Oh, got it. Perfect. Okay, thanks, Craig. All right, can we get one more round of applause though for our panelists? So we covered a lot of information this morning, and we've been getting fantastic questions, and so really excited to dive into these questions. But before we do that, just for the panelists, these questions might be directed at an individual or a couple people, but please feel free to expand, share your input if you would like to add anything, even if the question isn't necessarily directed towards you. But for our first question, to really open up this conversation, and this is for everybody, how would you define a quality job in Central Iowa? What components would you examine to establish that definition?
You want to take it first?
All right.
We actually have talked about that a lot. I know in childcare, you can be a 5-star childcare facility. I really think employers at some point in time, we should talk about what a good job is. And really where we come from Project Iowa, is that a good job is one in which your employer recognizes your gifts and talents and what you bring to the table. It's a relationship. It is not a one-way street. You bring value to the job, as well as the job should bring value to you. So a lot of what we talk about is the alignment of values of the employer with yourself. Now, that's a pretty high and mighty thing, and you have to feed your family. So is that always possible? No. But I think as a community, we can encourage employers to begin to have relationships in a very positive way. And I can tell you, and most of you probably can, who the good employers are and who they aren't. Because we know, because of people that come to us and they've worked at certain places and they're like, oh, that was really bad. And it really isn't always about the cost or the payment of what they're making. It's about how they're treated and how they feel. So I would really say culture is a huge piece of that, and just knowing you bring value to any place you go and work.
Yeah, I would say during COVID, we our demographics shifted. We had just people all over the spectrum of experience and education. And that's where we started to hear a lot of the reasons why people were leaving jobs or feeling really unsatisfied. And knowing that, explaining to employers that you may not be able to offer everything, but perhaps in, certain industries and certain types of work, is there something you can offer that can help with your retention when people feel valued and recognized, whether it's through pay, whether it's through, work hours or flexibility. That is, there's a correlation that's gonna keep them there. And so a lot of that we heard firsthand and have seen from job seekers, we've been able to share that with employers and even integrate that into our own practices.
Well, they hit it pretty well. I'm just gonna say the only thing I would add on there is if you're looking for a job, making sure that you go to that employer's direct website to, maybe on Indeed or maybe on LinkedIn or maybe on a site like that, but going there to see if it's viable and it's being posted on their website, because sometimes they may have a position, or even checking out your Iowa Works page. I'm going to put a plug out there because the business engagement team is putting those positions in there and working with those employers to make sure that they have access to those opportunities in our system. So those are great ones.
All right, terrific. The next question we have is for Aaron to talk a little bit more about Alice. So are there any more Alice household budgets for different family situations? For example, single parent, 2 adults, 1 kids, etc.
Yeah, that is a great question. So if you go, you can search for United for Alice. And you can see this information, not just for Central Iowa or Iowa, but throughout the country. And so you can go in and kind of see the different budgets for the different household makeups. Yes, absolutely. There's budgets for single individuals, for families of different sizes. That is the great thing about Alice, is that it takes into account kind of the different needs for the different budgets. So our hypothetical example of the 2 working adults with 2 children in childcare, obviously that budget has the childcare expense in it. If you look at an individual with no children, it doesn't have that expense in it. So yeah, absolutely, lots of different places.
Awesome. And that is a great resource. So if you haven't checked it out already, please go check out that dashboard just to see what it looks like in your county, even for household sizes that you might potentially work with or encounter. This next question that we have is for Julie and Gabby at Project Iowa. So you started to talk about it a little bit in your presentation about mental health practices and how they're incorporated in your work. Can you talk a little bit more about how it kind of shows up within your programming and how you try to really address the mental health that people are coming to, knowing that they come from very struggled backgrounds and maybe are in a really big time of need?
Yeah, well, and it really came from employers.
Mm.
In a lot of sense, they can teach the skill set when they can teach you how to make what they want to make, but it was really those internal and really emotional skills. So we have shifted our program a lot in the years, just in reaction to what we've seen. So we have what we call Path to Purpose. It is really about emotional intelligence. It's really about aligning your thoughts and your feelings towards your actions. We know a lot of times all of us have the tapes that play over in our minds all the time. I'm not good enough. Somebody looked at me wrong. I'm going to get fired. And we noticed that a lot in the employees that we trained. It was a lot of that internal conversation that was really impacting their employment. So we really work with individuals to understand how powerful they are and how their thoughts really impact what's happening in their lives and in their workplace. So that's one class they take. The other class we've added is it's called Wellness. And we know 80% of doctors' visits are due to stress. We know stress happens at work. We know that when you're under stress, you make poor decisions and you could shout or walk out or say stuff. So we do a lot around how to de-escalate yourself, how to get yourself back on that emotional scale, on the right side of the scale where you're feeling calm and you can make a good decision. So we talk a lot about how to keep yourself in those places in order for your job search really, and really kind of examining how that's impacted your relationships, your jobs previously and all of that. And then our other class is job seekers. And it's not just how to get a job, because a lot of people know how to get a job. That's something that many people have been taught, but it's how to get a job, how to stay in a job, and how to grow in a job, right? So how that can be a flourishing thing. It's not, at times people just need a job because they need to take care of income, and we recognize that, and that will help you get there too. And when you're ready, then you can come back and we can continue to look at something that will then be more valuable to you in that aspect. But so I would say we do a lot around mental health and emotional. I would say also that the cohort model is belonging. And I heard people want to belong. People want to feel welcome. And that's one of the things that's key. And we see you where you're at, come and be a part of our community, and then let's get you to a job. So it's a supportive, safe space. We create Sanctuary, which is a safe space for people to be. I don't know if you'd add.
I guess the only thing I would add is our emphasis on emotional intelligence and social emotional learning. I think employers are now realizing how important that is. And I believe it was Gallup shared that people with higher emotional intelligence are finding themselves, climbing up in their career, whatever that looks like. The relationship that it has with getting promoted, finding a new job, seeking out different opportunities, connecting and networking. Those all are very integrated, and we have weaved that into how we structure our programming and what we teach. So it's something we've been doing for a long time, and just, getting better at it, and also emphasizing to job seekers how important it is. And that is a tool that they can immediately start working on.
Awesome. All right, so we are running a little bit low on time, so I think we might have time for one more question before I wrap things up. This will be for all of you. So are there any low-hanging fruit solutions Central Iowa could collectively pursue to help address workforce challenges?
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I'll start.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I would say, so low hanging fruit, look at your internal employees and seeing how you can upskill some of those individuals. So moving up into other positions and then opening up whether those are entry level positions or they're coordinator positions, mid-level, it just depends. But looking at your team and how you can upskill and retain those employees so they're not looking for the next opportunity, because that would also maybe create a less of a fill into the current workspace that are people that are employed, looking for employment. So looking at your current workforce and how you can upskill would be one that I'd say, and then connecting with your youth to create opportunities into your positions, whether they're going to college or they're graduating from college, or maybe just don't even know where they want to go. So just helping educate what you guys do as an employer. That's maybe what my low hanging fruit would be.
Anyone else would like to add to that?
A lot of advocacy, needs to be done with our community and businesses, and how important workforce is for our community. We don't thrive as a community. We have 90,000 people living like that. That should impact me. That should impact all of us. And so really owning up to, do we really want everyone in our community to have their basic needs met? And if we do, we really have to start talking about it, because it's the nonprofit world, but it's the business world. It's private individuals that need to step to the plate and say, I want my community to thrive. And I know that I have 90,000 of my peers if their car breaks down, they can't take care of themselves. That's not okay. And I just think that we have to advocate on every level, in every situation we're in, as a human, as a business owner, as a nonprofit leader. This isn't okay. And so, and people are going to continue to fall through the cracks, and it's not, the future really doesn't look bright. When you were giving your Alice report, I would almost want to start crying, because and we know things are being cut. So we have to, those of us that have a voice, we have to amplify the voices of those that aren't heard. And it's every person's responsibility to do that and once we get to that point and our communities are thriving, when nothing is going to be taken away from people. So it's not an either or, it's an and. So we need to advocate that people can survive.
All right. I think I said it better myself, Julie, but thank you for that final comment. And thank you to our co-sponsors, Project Iowa, for making this event possible with us and getting such a fantastic panel today. And thank you to all of our panelists. So thank you, Julie, Gabby, Aaron, Tyler, and Randy for being here today and sharing your expertise with all of us. Can we get one more round of applause for all of them, please? So as we know, economic stability and access to employment are really at the crux for a lot of these broader community issues that we see, from housing instability to food insecurity to why families are unable to afford childcare and even pay off medical bills. So it's critical we continue to have these types of conversations about why people are able to or not able to fully engage within our workforce. So I hope you heard some takeaways on how our community can better support our workforce. And I hope you also heard of some strategies that we can really implement to really improve the economic mobility of Central Iowans. Now, just a few more thank yous before we wrap up. Thank you to UpLift Funding Group for making the pilot possible, but also these conversations a reality. Thank you to the Harkin Institute, the Project Iowa staff for showing up early today, making it possible and making this run really smoothly. Thank you to Tracy Steele for doing captioning today and making it accessible, along with Craig from Signature Productions for recording today's event and making it available online. And lastly, thank you to the Ankeny Library for allowing us to use this amazing space for this discussion. Before you leave, we do have an event survey that we will send out to everyone that was in attendance, both in person and online. So be on the lookout for a follow-up email where we will also include resources and links to all of these amazing organizations and also the resources that they talked about today. So look out for that follow-up email. And then finally, stay in touch with UpLift. So we do have a community conversation series that we have been doing. As Ashley said, this is our 6th one. You can do that by signing up for our quarterly newsletter at our website, upliftiowa.org. That's the best way to stay in touch and keep up to date with what we're doing with the pilot. We do have some exciting plans for our next community conversation. So we will have a museum-style housing exhibit that was built into a 20-foot shipping container that will include information, stories, data on the broad spectrum of housing experiences in our community, including redlining in Central Iowa, the affordability and availability of housing, eviction trends, home ownership initiatives, and also, of course, potential housing solutions. So that exhibit will open in July, so be sure to stay plugged into us to know how you can get a tour of that if you're interested, with you, your colleagues, or friends or families, if you're so interested. But thank you all again for coming in this morning, and please have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone.